I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thanks, Arvid.
Second.
Thanks, Ron. We have a motion by Arvid and a second by Ron to approve the agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Passes unanimously. Item number 3, approval of the consent agenda. Does anybody have anything on the consent agenda that they wish to discuss?
No, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thanks, Ron.
I'll second.
Thanks, Marcia. We have a motion by Ron, second by Marcia to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Carries. Item 4, public input and ideas. Limit 5 minutes per speaker. Anybody wish to speak? Looks like most of the people that are here are people that are already planning on speaking a little bit later. Great. All right, we'll move past that section. Move to item 5, reports. Staff reports first. Fire.
Hey, everyone. We had 13 runs total last month, 6 during the village of Osceola, 7 were in the town of Farmington. Run breakdown was 2 motor vehicle accidents, 8 medical lift assists, 1 alarm, 1 power line down, and 1 natural gas leak. Training was doing just wheels and wings cleanup and starting to work with the airboat. Upcoming training, which we did, we were training with the airboat down in the river, and we communicated with Hull County. Now it was picked up on 9/11, and we communicated it's in service now as of 9/30. So we're up and running service rescues on the river.
Fantastic.
Hi.
Questions?
Yeah, I've got, well, just one comment. Is you don't need a siren on that, I can tell you that.
You guys-
Oh, man. What's the size of that motor on that thing?
It's a Corvette engine and it's 550.
Holy buckets. That's,
We wake up the neighborhood.
yeah, no, it sounds really nice. It's good.
Any questions? No? Great, thanks.
Thanks, Paul. All right, next up, police. Captain Bach.
How you guys doing it? All right, so, September was, knock on wood, pretty chill month, but, 2 weeks to say that, Joe. Otherwise, we generated 315 calls for service, filed 41 incident and traffic crash reports. We made one arrest and 1 criminal referral. We initiated 56 traffic stops and issued 24 municipal citations. St. Croix Falls reported to have generated 9 calls for service in the village in September, and September 30th being the last day that that agreement is in effect. That is now a lapsed deal. So, otherwise, Wheels and Wings went off very well. Very happy with that, despite our staffing deficiencies. Looking forward to it next year. Called note, our officers responded to a traffic crash in East Farmington where a suspect was arrested for a few different offenses, most notably in possession of 40 grams of methamphetamine and a firearm and operating while intoxicated. Lastly, Coffee with the Cop is back at the end of October, so we're happy to kick that off on October 18th from 8:30 a.m. to 10 o'clock a.m. So, any questions?
We're going to do the one after that too, the Friday after that as well?
Yeah, it's the last 2 Fridays each month.
Okay.
No, it sounds like a good assist and a good arrest
Yeah.
down there. That's a lot of math.
Yeah, 40 grams.
And you got a bonus too with a firearm, so that's good.
Mhm. Thank you.
You did that.
Thanks, AJ. Okay, next up, Public Works.
Hello, evening.
September's busy. Obviously, we were successful with our preparation, cleaning up after the Osceola Fair, Wheels and Wings, Harvest Bazaar, and Parade. Lots of street sweeping, candy wrappers and things like that, and getting everything cleaned back up and getting staged for the fall. Removing existing banner and hanging special event Roof Fest banner. I think coming up through November here, we have 3 special event permits we'll be fulfilling for Public Works. Simmons Drive inspections oversight of the project. Pavement final, as the schedule fluctuated, obviously went on for a little longer, tried to keep Devin updated appropriately to some of our role and impact testing, let things dry out appropriately. Ran into a few issues, but in the end, I think we got a good product for the price. Hauling out of annual debris accumulation began. Everything we collect all year, street sweepings, ashes, waste products are moved from our holding area and taken off-site. We've hauled about 63 yards so far in the month of September, and that will continue all the way to November. Department's gearing up for infected full tree removals and trimming as our trees go dormant. As I mentioned in the summer, late summer, we just had a real vegetation sprout with all the moisture, so we'll be looking forward to quadrant off the village and getting things cut down appropriately, including around sidewalks and streets. Parks, as mentioned here, the numerous ash borer infected trees. We had to take a couple down right away. We've got a number more that are going to be marked for removal this winter. Also, as I'm sort of remarked in the memo here, we look forward to trying to potentially treat some of these items in the future. It's costly, it's time consuming. But if we can at least identify those 15 to 17-inch trees that have a chance, we're probably going to take a shot at trying to help them along, especially when they're in probably key areas. As far as building maintenance goes, Tweed Garrett did an abundance of troubleshooting. As you can see, it's nice and cool in here today, especially with temperatures fluctuating between 35 and 40 degrees from day to night. As mentioned, a page long list came from the manufacturer of potential, what could be the culprit with his exact unit. So we're working our way down the list. We're going to look forward to probably removing all the oil from the compressor and starting fresh and new and see how that does. But at this time, it's holding up for more days than it's down. So we're going to get there. Any questions?
Is the bathroom back open down here?
It is
Like full time?
full time. Yeah, we'll look forward as we dip into the low 30s. We're going to secure it for the winter.
The vandalism issue kind of went away.
Yeah, it's subsided for sure. We've been working intensely in that entire area. We have an excavator this week, so we just dug a new water line for the park. We spent this summer again without water. So I think from last September until now, no water in that park available for visitors or residents. So we dug a new water line today, and we're looking forward to getting it plumbed and hooked up here shortly.
I kind of lost track of it. What's the status of the parking lot over there? Did that go in?
Complete.
Okay, all done?
Phase one complete.
Blacktop next year.
Yeah, we're gonna look forward to letting it settle, given what was on the spot and on the site. I'm gonna let things settle and see how things look in the spring and gear up. We'll probably, along with our roads, we'll put out bids for asphalt for that parking lot to be done in the spring.
Is that part of, is that Fifth that goes down it?
Between 4th and 6th.
The little spur street that goes down there, isn't that part of
That's 4th.
Fourth? Okay.
Yep.
I lost track of the numbers. Is the whole street getting redone?
We're hoping that 4th will get done. That was part of sort of what I put forward in August, but bids came in far too high. So we will continue to do a pulverize.
This is Fourth, right?
Correct, yep.
Didn't Fifth have some work scheduled for it? Because isn't there a dead end water main there or something?
5th,
4th and 3rd, we're on there.
Fifth.
yeah, we don't have
Doesn't
anything for
exist,
5th at this time. 3rd was a culprit.
Third, Fourth,
No
Fifth.
fifth.
Stubby 5th.
Fifth doesn't exist?
It's like the parking lot in between.
Yeah, would have been the north end of the old high school.
Yeah.
Is that not still Fifth?
I don't think it has a street sign.
I think it's,
Yeah, this is just Fifth that spits out right out to RCU and Chieftain, between Chieftain and Cascade. Nothing scheduled. We looped our water main in the past when building was done.
I'm gonna use specific properties. I know Ryan had issues with the end of his.
Sure.
He always had to run. Isn't he live on Fifth?
Um,
I thought that was
Yes.
taken care of.
That's all taken care of now?
that's Sixth. Yeah, that was a looped
Or
water.
Sixth?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's actually Sixth. We looped the water main.
I'm missing a street here, sorry.
We came through the right of way and came right behind this
Gotcha.
building here.
I knew that was an issue in the past.
Yeah.
Oh, sure enough it is. I thought Fifth was the next one.
It was an
Maps.
issue, but it's been resolved.
Okay. I remember that being part of the discussion with possibly moving the fair building and the end of that street having some water work that still needed to be done or something. Going off of memory.
Nope, completed.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Todd. Okay, next up, utilities.
Yeah, they drained the water tower and had it painted. That was a big thing up there. It has now since been cleaned. It's up and back and running again. They had their cable replaced. They're having issues with their SCADA system, and they found out that the cable was spliced or sliced up. The sewer utility side, Ryan received the passing grade on his biosolids. So good for Ryan. That is not an easy test. It's very math intensive. It's because it's very about chemical equations and what goes into your wastewater. So good for Ryan. And then other than that, that is his quick update for Rick. I know he is extremely busy trying to get all of his locates done. Ryan and Roll spent a lot of time on all that, and they'll be starting their hydrant flushing and all that, getting ready for winter here too.
Pardon my ignorance, but what does SCADA stand for?
It's just it's
System control and data acquisition.
it's a computer. It's basically their notification system that they use to
Got it.
see when things go wrong.
It's measuring process things.
So if something goes wrong, they get an alert on their phone or whatever
Okay.
it might be.
And then the information about the Verizon antennas, was that in relation to the Bluff Tower or the one out on M?
Both. We're working on multiple agreements, so it's
Okay,
we're working with SEH on that one.
I'll just wait on that
And their
then.
contract agreement. So there's a multitude of stuff going on with tower agreements right now.
Or all the one upgrade is in process, right?
All of them are working on contracts right now.
So there was a big boom up there. A bucket,
Where up on the hill?
yeah. Didn't I see one up there?
That was part of
Oh,
the cleaning of it.
Okay. I wasn't sure if that was part of the
No, we're still
KLM company adding.
KLM is the repainting. They're an engineering firm for water towers.
Gotcha. They're not the
Um,
ones building the structure for the antenna for Verizon. Okay.
No, we're
I misunderstood
we're still
that.
in all the contract talks with all of that. SEH is working with us on those, and then we're still in review between us and them. But it should be getting finalized here hopefully soon.
Are they planning on finishing that this year or next year or what?
I don't know the timeline on that, when that's going to happen. You know how attorneys are.
Everybody's going through this, right? So we're in the line of many,
What's that?
the negotiating of tower fees and everything else.
Oh, yeah, all the municipalities are, yeah.
It's a lot of negotiating.
Okay, all right, thanks. Moving on to library.
Good evening.
Hi.
Hello. So I began the second class that is required for my library director certification. The class is Advanced Library Administration, and it's through UW-Madison iSchool. And we will be covering strategic planning, library advocacy, personnel management, marketing, and library facilities. On September 17th and 18th, it was Wisconsin Library Tech Days. So during that time, I attended several webinars on the use of AI in libraries and other emerging technologies. During the month, I also attended the IFLS-sponsored in-person budget workshop. So during September, we circulated 3,931 items. We had 112 public computer uses, 1,397 ebook checkouts, and we had 62 new patrons. Our collection, we added 221 new items to our shelves during the month of September. And then one of our volunteers, Tanya Mork, started this project way back in January, but she finished going through every item of our collection, looking for damage, which we either noted inside the front cover of the item, if it could still circulate, or we withdrew the item if the damage was too extensive and could no longer circulate. So after a break at the end of August, Storytime returned during the first week of September and will continue every week until winter break in December. Lego Club is back with its fall schedule, meeting the first and third Thursdays of each month. We are trying to bring back some young adult programming with a Teen Saturday each month. And on September 11th, we hosted probably one of my favorite days of the entire year, where we have the entire sixth grade come to the library. Those that do not have library cards receive library cards, and they get a tour of the library as well as a tour of the MORE website, so they can find out about all the resources that their library card can get them. The WMPL book discussion and Get Let both met in September, and the book bike traveled to Millside and Evergreen Apartments. Kathy Oscarson has installed her art on the gallery wall during the last week of the month, and we just had her meet and greet last week. And on the 15th, she will be doing an artist project that people can drop in and make leaf prints. So we're excited about that. So with generous donations from an anonymous donor and the Friends of the Osceola Library, we have now ordered blinds for the exterior windows of the library from Budget Blinds. They're very similar to the blinds that the village has on the windows in their offices and the meeting rooms located on the first floor of the building. Any questions?
I got a question.
Okay, Van.
When the books, I see you added like 221
Mhm.
new books. All right. So somebody was talking to me here not too long ago about when they go in the library, and that they noticed that some of the books, there are certain categories are disappearing from the shelves. Is it because like the damaged books and they're not getting replaced? And I wonder that because there are some fairly popular books in the library.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
And if they get old and they get tattered, how is that replaced? It can't just all go to digital, is it?
No. So do you know what books specifically, what categories they were
It is in the
specifically?
science fiction.
Okay, because our science fiction is pretty extensive.
Yeah, but
But so we also do a lot of weeding in our library, and weeding, kind of the base that I go on for weeding is if an item has not been checked out for 3 years,
oh, okay.
it will go away unless it's like a classic or it's part of a series and the rest of the series is circulating. But for whatever reason, that
Okay.
one book is not, then I will keep it. But that's kind of where our base start for it. But then we also, like with our volunteer, going through and finding books that are just too damaged
Right.
or they look terrible. It's
Right.
really tattered and battered and stained and gross. Those will get pulled
So
too.
that's where the book sales come in.
That's
Yeah.
part of it. We get a
Right.
lot of
And then-
donations for those too.
So if those popular books are used a lot, obviously they're gonna get battered.
Yep.
And so do you then acquire a new book or?
If we can, we do.
If
And a
we
lot of times that's where those donations come in handy because sometimes those, people will purchase those really popular books. They read it,
Oh,
they're done with it. They don't want it to sit on their shelf or whatever, so they donate it to us. And that's where I will go through and look and actually replace those books that might not look so great, but they're still circulating
a lot of work.
So yeah, if you have William Kent Kruger books, bring them on down.
Oh.
Because his are always circulating and we always need new ones of those.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, anyone else? All right, thanks.
Okay, building inspection and administration.
Yeah, we had 3 new home permits in the last month, bringing our total up to 9 this year. Last year at this time, we were at 4 new homes, and our overall permit report last year was only $3.8 million. This year, we're already at $10.6 million. So there's been substantial growth this year in the community. We're excited to see that. And it looks like next year and rest of this year too, we should see some more new homes being built as we have some permits in the hopper waiting to get approved. So new homes are looking to be on the rise again, which is good after last year's little flat, or we went down actually from year before in 23.
Tough.
Administration report, working on a new fire contract with East Farmington. Hopefully that will be before you guys next month at the board meeting. Working with a few developers on both commercial and residential developments within the community. We took a big step in that just this month by finishing up TID number 4. So that is now an active TID once it's approved by the Department of Revenue. We're in the budget process currently. We have to set up a next budget workshop. However, I do not want to have the next budget workshop until we have our complete audit done for 2023. So I'm reaching out to the auditor, waiting to hear back to when he's going to present. I want him here in November to present the final audit for 2023. And the other big thing that's coming the next month is the election. And I know Carrie's been working hard on it. In-person early voting starts October 22nd. So if you need to vote early and come in, you come in through Village Hall down there and ask for Carrie, and she'll give you a ballot for early voting.
I got a question back on permitting. Is J&A actually building 4 twin homes? Or 2 duplexes?
Mhm.
All on 405 Smith Avenue?
Not all on 405.
No, it shows up as 405 Smith Avenue 4 times.
On the report?
Bottom of page 46 and the top of 47.
Maybe they're stacking them.
It looks like it's just the
Oh,
same.
one's AC, one's B and D.
Yeah, but they're repeated. It's VOS 2466 and VOS 2467. They're repeated.
Yeah, he probably meant to put there's 2 for Del Mar.
No.
So there's
Little typo there. It's either way, it's 2 duplexes, right?
Yep.
That's what it boils down to.
Yes.
Cool.
That's all I got.
All right, thank you. Moving on to 5B, Chamber of Commerce, Main Street.
Good evening. I wish I could have shared this last month, and you probably heard the news, but we are officially a T-Mobile Hometown Grant recipient. So Main Street received $40,000 from T-Mobile for the Osceola Skate Park project. We were one of 25 recipients for Q3 in 2023 out of 683 applicants. So it was a very big process. They encourage us to apply again, so we're turning wheels to figure out what other public projects we can, or private projects we can apply for. Glock and Roll behind you to your left, my right, is open. There's been a lot of traffic in the parking lot, so we're glad to see them up and going. Osceola had a big month last month just in earned media, so just wanted to highlight all the different ways that we were shared across multiple different avenues. So Travel Wisconsin started their big fall marketing campaign, Here's to Being Here. It started in the western part of the state with the St. Croix River Valley, and so that was a video, an article series on the website, and then there's also a 30-second spot featuring Wilkie Glen and Cascade Falls, and they've used that multiple different places across the internet. So I can't say specifically where we've been, I just know we've been all over with their marketing plan. And then there's 2 other articles they featured us in, scenic fall train rides, and then the scenic waterfalls in Wisconsin. There's also a Travel Wisconsin podcast, and we were featured on that as one of the hidden gem waterfalls to visit. So these were all earned media, didn't cost us anything. It just happened through connections made at the tourism conference that I attended, and just also the fact that people are learning about us. So it's all good things. And then the last one, Care 11, they have a series called Care in the Air where they take aerial footage of downtowns, and they featured us at the end of September. And so there's a 2.5 minute spot that's just footage to music, and then there's a 30-second spot with voiceover that they've played multiple times during multiple broadcasts. So it was a good month just for exposure. Osceola shows well in the fall. Grow Osceola was out changing decorations. Train added 2 additional train trips on Thursday of this week and next week, which is 400 more tickets and seats for people to come because demand has been high for fall train tours. So it's a good quiet month in September. I was gone because I was attending a Main Street workshop in Racine about placemaking. So that was it. Kind of a quiet, simple September. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that completes item 5 on the agenda. We'll move to item 6, which is the public hearing portion of our meeting for the purpose of discussing and receiving comments on our proposed adoption of an ordinance amending portions of Chapter 134 of the Village Code pertaining to impact fees. So public hearing portion is now open. Neil, you want to speak as a member of the public on this? No? Okay.
There are enough microphones available to me.
Okay. I don't think anybody's here to speak on the public hearing portion, so we will close it. All right, so we have another item. Do we need a motion to close public hearing?
Just do it. Just make sure that was. a
Okay,
motion.
so moved. Do we have a second?
Yep.
Thanks, Mike. Motion by myself and a second by Mike to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say no. Carried. All right, so then the next item right after that is approval of a needs assessment and then to adopt the impact fee, which is ordinance 2405. So I'm looking for somebody to
So with that,
help us with that.
with that being said tonight, you saw my memo with Rick's memo that we both recommend going to the maximum for that. If you indeed you want to go to the maximum today, we would want to push that out to approve that resolution in November, not tonight. But if you're happy with where you're at, the reason why we wanted to go to the maximum is because of our specific needs to our community, not based on other communities' needs. For instance, when you look at your local comparisons, you notice that New Richmond has a very high library amount, and that's because they're building a $12 million library in New Richmond. And Rick laid out why his needs are where they're at within his memo too. I think it's important that we make sure that new construction help pays for the infrastructure that's being put in place, and that the burden does not fall back on the current residents of the community. My recommendation was to go to the max. However, once again, that's just my recommendation. It does not have to be followed. If you have any questions for that about the assessment, the needs assessment, Todd and Angela are here today to answer any questions that you might have too.
If I understand you correctly, then action on this will be taken in November.
If indeed, if you want to see, the resolution of the other way.
I know we had a lot of good discussion at the last meeting about the total number and the recommendation from the Planning Commission. I think that I acknowledge and hear Devin's point that there are differences within communities and that there can be different driving pieces of that. I also think this is a competitive question, and adopting a $7,000 total number would put us the highest in the communities that have been selected. That's just a position I'm not particularly comfortable putting ourselves in. And I think as well that there is an opportunity to revisit this next year if we come to find out that other communities have increased their impact fees, as it sounds like they're working to do. And at that point, we can choose to go to the hill if we want to. But I am concerned about being the highest one in the area. And so right now I'm predisposed against the proposed number and would be more supportive of the $6,000 cap that was discussed.
One thing that stood out to me was we're the only community on this comparable list that has money for a public works building. And when I look at page 57, I'm not seeing where the state of Wisconsin allows for that public works building. Allows for water treatment facilities, water treatment buildings, fire protection facilities, law enforcement facilities, emergency medical facilities, but nothing specifically for public works building. So I don't know if that needs to be renamed, if we decide to keep that, or
Transportation facility, it's considered a transportation facility because you park your plows there. I
I didn't see transportation facilities in this list, in the executive summary. Pretty specific.
Highway is defined by state statute 340.0122.
So you're saying that highways under state law include a public works building?
Yeah, so.
Oh,
under
the first bullet point.
Yep, under the definition of highways, you are allowed to do funding towards facilities where you park your plows and you have all your highway maintenance vehicles.
And to us, that's an important one, as we currently do not have the funds otherwise to help with the public works creation of a new facility that it's in desperate need of a severe makeover, if not a new facility.
Well, can you help game that out, play that out for me? Because I don't know that we're anticipating paying for the entire public works building on the back of impact fees.
On the back, just anything to help.
So the total project then, if we were to collect impact fees for that purpose, we have 7 years to use them, right? And so if we get, let's say we're 7 years down the road and in this hypothetical world, we've collected these impact fees, but we have not put in place whatever other financing we need to actually do the building itself, do those impact fees get returned to the people who paid them? On a rolling annual basis as that 7-year time elapses?
So like, for instance, if we didn't do that parking lot for the park funds, that amount would have gone back to the people because we didn't use the funds in time.
Okay.
Is there a reason we don't have an amount for fire or police?
Building wise, new construction's not needed.
Well, it has to be new construction.
To speak to Neil's point, I think that all of the municipalities on this list are a few years out on impact fee studies. And so I anticipate that any one of these communities that updates their impact fee list is probably going to step in line to what we're doing. I'm also pretty confident that we present a pretty attractive place to build at the moment. So I really don't think that the difference between $6,000 and $7,000 is going to stop somebody from building a $400,000 house. I just don't.
I'm with you, Brad, that, if this is what our department people say is what they need, why would we hold back?
Yeah. Well, and the taxpayers have always been talking about how one of the considerations that we should be taking is if we're going to promote growth, we really need to respect the existing infrastructure and the people that are helping that infrastructure. And the way that we can help offset some of those is to make sure that the new construction helps with that. So
we're not messing with a levy, so this is an entirely different animal.
yeah, this is
It's not
completely
like-
different.
Yeah, it's, the issue is if you, for instance, if you happen to lower the thing in the water, the sewer doesn't cover what it needs to, then there has to be a rate adjustment, which would then go on to the current users. That is ultimately the fear with a lower number.
To your point, Neil, of if we're not using that money specifically for the public works building in that category, would it also just be applied then to a different highway category? or we are labeling it that it has to be for a public works building.
Yeah, we have labeled it as a public works
Got it.
facility.
So we've talked about this for a number of years about where the fire department is and those two stalls. It's a pretty large space that Public Works. We talked about the facility that they're at is deteriorating. We know that. We're thinking about in the future that we're going to need a facility, and that was a concept that we were looking at, is to move everything up there.
How many units do we build here? Approximately.
Between 10 and 20. With some of the larger things coming on site, though, we have some significant size projects that are potentially upcoming.
20 units at $450 is $9,000 a year. I don't know that we should, Public Works doesn't seem like it's a huge impact. They could blow that in a new air compressor or a new garage door or
one thing.
something. If we were looking at something that actually held some value, it seems like it's the roads and the sewer. Roads, everybody talks about having cost issues because petroleum goes up and labor goes up and stuff. The sewer kind of confuses me a little bit because I thought we had capacity, and granted there's maintenance.
It's the
Age.
co-op that we're in,
That's where it's coming from.
Mhm.
Okay. I don't that's, if I'm looking at something on here that has impact based on 20 units a year, I mean, those are the two big ones. The other ones are beans.
Just to follow up on Van's point, so these impact fees have to be used for new buildings? And could we actually even, given the fact that the thought is we're going to renovate something that we already have, could we use impact fees in that renovation idea?
I want to clarify something. It's not just a new building, is it?
Sure that she gets to
New
answer.
facility. It's a new facility.
Are we building a new sewer plant?
We built it in 2005.
We're still paying the debt off on it.
Paying
Oh,
off.
okay, so it goes towards debt.
Yeah.
Yep.
Gotcha, okay.
So that it's similar with the well. In this,
Yeah, well, we're still paying well 4 off too.
Thanks, sorry, back to Neil.
and so in this scenario, there is not a public works facility there right now. There's a building, but it has to be built up. It has to be basically, the shell is there, but it needs to be built out. And so we can use these for the build out to actually have it perform as a public works
Okay,
facility.
so for impact fee purposes, that doesn't count as a renovation.
Correct.
It's considered new construction.
Construction.
I agree with Brad that $1,000 shouldn't make or break, and I understand it's not nice to be the most expensive in a list of surrounding neighborhoods. Is that something that is presented to developers as a comparable list that anyone is viewing?
They know what their impact fees are if they're large
The
builders.
consensus out of the planning commission was I don't think anybody was against the total value, but let's just go in increments.
Sure.
Let's just not go crazy on the first pass.
Sure.
And go back in a year. Same argument. It could go either way. It could go up
Mhm.
if we're all of a sudden competitive when we burn through property.
Mhm.
We could go down too if it gets stagnant. Going back to the comprehensive plan, we need how many units a year? Some ridiculous amount.
It was X number of units in 5 years, like 290 in 5 years.
Yep. Sure, this might not matter, but at 290 in 5 years, that might change the pace. And I think that was like Chelsea's concern is let's not be crazy.
And I'd offer too, I think the development community that we work with is a fairly small number of players. And I think that they,
Disappointingly small.
yeah, well, and I think that they know what those impact fees are in other communities. And do I think that if a project is full steam ahead, that this would derail it? No. On the margin, could it affect people's interest in developing here? I think it could. And so that's where my view is coming from. But that's mine. There are 7 of us up here. And so that would be my concern.
So options tonight are to adopt the plan commission's recommendation or?
We have the resolution. No, we do not. So I would recommend holding off on the resolution until November.
We have nothing to work on.
We do, but it needs heavy editing.
You could ask them just to approve what they want.
Yeah.
Create what they want and approve at the next meeting.
I'd rather not.
If nobody's gonna build this winter, we can wait. We got time.
The resolution got messy with the changing.
It's important.
I don't know that we even have to table it.
Excuse me, the ordinance got messy with the changing of the number to 6,000. So some things had to be double checked to make sure all of the numbers were matching up where they needed to. You could pass tonight what you want done, and then we can have that ordinance ready for you in November.
That seems backwards.
I don't feel comfortable doing that. Let's get it done. Get all the numbers straight. and-
Plan
On what number though?
That's the thing, they need to know the number.
So we got something to go by next month.
No, we need the number tonight, like,
We're staying at 6,001 or we're moving up to 7,000.
I would make a motion to accept the planning commission's, or I'm sorry, the Osceola proposed amount for $7,092. Let a motion be drafted based on that.
Okay, I will second that.
Do you want to give me some clarifying on that, Carrie, so that we can make sure that the right information is in minutes?
the motion was to approve the 7,000.
As proposed by village staff.
But then we still have work to do on the back end for another adoption in November.
It'll be ready to go.
Got it.
You'll
Okay.
have This information from this plan
Yep.
that you guys all have.
Okay.
Yep.
I will have the ordinance with those numbers, and that will be up for approval.
Okay.
And I just want to make sure that ordinance is right and in our packet
Yes,
when you approve it.
Got it.
got it.
So the motion is to direct administration to construct the ordinance for November approval.
That'd be perfect.
Is that,
Yep.
that works for you? Great.
So I meant to say.
As you can see.
Ron, who seconded it?
I seconded. Yep.
Thanks, Van. All right, so motion by Ron, second by Van, to direct administration to craft that motion. Any discussion or opposed? I think we've already heard everybody's opinion already. All right, so we'll vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no.
No.
So motion carries 5-2. Thank you, everybody. It's a productive discussion. Okay, moving on. Item 7, other business discussion and possible action regarding MSA Professional Services and their project update.
As you all know, last month we were awarded with the DNR Stewardship Grant. It's a match grant up to $710,000 for the Cascade Falls project that we plan on doing next summer. MSA has been the engineering firm for the conceptual plan, the phase plan, and the grant for this whole project as we've gone through. At this time right now, as you know, we only have $400,000 set aside in our CIP. I am currently talking to other nonprofits and other philanthropist groups in the area to see if we can raise more money to help us with the match grant so we can do everything that we want with this project. As you can see currently, the project cost greatly exceeds the number that we currently have available to us. So there are some things that Drew can talk about tonight too, and you can ask questions about the project as we go forward. So with that, I turn over to Drew.
Yeah, thanks, Devin. I agree with everything you said. It's really exciting to be awarded that stewardship application. I can touch on that in a little bit, but there was a lot of work that went into that, not just on MSA's part. There was, that core plan was a initial or crucial element to being awarded that. There was this conceptual design, which we found out that the only people that got awarded stewardship money, they all had some kind of preliminary design done. So that was crucial, another big component. And then a lot of input from the village staff, letters that were written, giving their support for this project. So there was a lot of work, and I would like to say congrats initially on that, and thank you for all the village staff. But today I want to just go over this project update. MSA uses this project update as a communication tool to give updates on where we're at with projects. So I'd like to start with this conceptual design for Cascade Falls Park. Devin, could you put the TV at slide 96?
This one or next one? Next one.
Yeah, 96 would be good. So where's MSA at right now? We're progressing well on this conceptual design. We're nearing completion. The reason we're not complete today is that we're still waiting for feedback on the cost for some bridges and boardwalks. So I've received some costs on some of the supplies. I'd like to see at least 2 estimates on it for putting these costs in a formal cost estimate. So I'm waiting on that. And then MSA still has to revise phase 3 based on fire department feedback. So once we revise phase 3 of this plan, we've gotten their approval, also Todd's approval, then my goal is to bring you the final deliverables in November. That's my goal once I get their approval. I want to just highlight the first phase of this project, just talk about it briefly. That way we're all on the same page. This is, phase 1, the phase that we got this grant opportunity for. We start with this sidewalk path that leads to this pedestrian place where people can rest, and there'll be some historic signage there. There will be this overlook. This is just a conceptual design, so this overlook could change in size, could be value engineered, but there's a retaining wall there that supports this aluminum overlook that has this mill wheel design to capture some historic elements of that mill site that's at Grits Mill Park. And then you'll walk down approximately 117 steps that are made out of aluminum. The goal is to make these stairs out of aluminum in its entirety. There's some people at MSA that believe that they could be aluminum framed with some kind of plastic material for treads to save costs. The cost that I'm seeing is, hundreds of $1,000s on cost for treads. So, there's lots of options with different types of materials for these steps. This is how the plan rests now. There will be an observation landing halfway down the steps so people can rest or just take a break, consider if they should keep walking down and return. But this observation space would have a viewpoint of the falls, and then you could continue to the boundary of phase 2. I'd like to note that the boundary at phase 2, it isn't drawn 100% accurate with the layout. There will be some trail that will lead up to that lower pedestrian bridge like there is right now, just for visual conceptual. This is kind of what you're looking at. So that was phase 1. Phase 2, could you go to, is it 95? Go up there.
Drew, before you change, can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, you say we'll have an overlook on number 3. Is the falls going to be visible at all from
From
number
the first
4?
overlook? Yeah, so according to site distance, there's a conflict with trees, Arvid. The existing trees are in conflict with your view, but there is vertical site distance from the overlook to the top of the falls and the bottom of the falls. So the clearing and grubbing, that's something that will have to be worked out in our design of how much and where, get that site distance line in there if that's something we want to remove trees in that area. But that is a goal.
But as is, the wheel is an expensive feature, right?
Right, yep, it's very expensive. There was a wheel that was,
Clearing would add more cost.
Are we allowed to remove trees in that area?
it's village-owned land. But like Devin indicated, it's a very expensive feature. There is a wheel that was put in similar to this on the St. Croix Riverway in St. Paul. That project exceeded $1 million just for this wheel. Now their wheel was bigger and fancy lights and crazy foundation. It was crazy. It was expensive. There's this giant flagpole in the middle. This is going to be hopefully more simple. And it could be simplified even more if we're trying to value engineer stuff.
Drew, I got like 3 questions. Is
Right.
10 slab on grade? Like, is that a concrete patio? Is that,
That's correct. Yep.
that's somehow integrated into the wheel?
Yep, that will be level, you could say level with the wheel, or
How does the retaining wall fit in there?
the retaining wall is just indicating that there'll be a foundation that the overlook is tied to. So
So you'll be able
is-
to walk from one to the other.
Yeah, that's correct. It'll be an ADA accessible surface. The foundation is allowing the overlook to hang over the cliff.
Hang on,
Sorry,
last
you've got two
question.
more. Sorry.
There used to be lights going down there, right? Are
Yeah,
they
there-
still working?
There used to be overhead lights. Is Todd still here?
I
They
think
don't work anymore?
The
I'm gonna,
pillar got taken out by the rocks.
they got damaged during the rock slide.
they were all working prior to that?
Never
Mhm.
used them.
We had illumination until then, yep.
No.
Getting
we
a lot
didn't,
of
did
backs and forths here.
we? Todd, we didn't have them before, did we?
That was a loaded question because I would agree. I don't know that I've ever seen them work well. And I remember
Well,
when this.
Technically, it closed at dusk, so there's no need for illumination anyways.
Sure. Not to say that people wouldn't, and probably it isn't a bad idea, but I remember when this building was getting built and I watched those little lights go in the little stairs out here.
Yeah.
And thought that was one of the dumbest ideas I've ever seen because they're terrible in concrete. They're exposed to the environment, even though things are IP56 and stuff. It doesn't make any sense. I love some of these features, but we don't need to go overboard and do things like solar lights and things that just aren't going to last and aren't going to be maintainable because we're going to blow a lot of dumb money.
That's valid. Lighting is very expensive. This $30,000 was just a budget to put lighting, let's say at number 3 overlook. Just something in there. During our preliminary discussion with village staff, we decided to put some item in there for lighting, whether that would be lighting of the falls itself, just have some item in there to keep track of it.
I've worked with architects before. You could argue that from 15 down is like the easy things to cut off that they threw in. They're like, well, if we have the money, let's see if they'll do it.
On the estimate you're
Just,
indicating?
yeah, just cut those off and be done with it. That'll save you like 50 grand to 50 to 70 right there and Todd a lot of maintenance later.
That's great feedback. If lighting
It's just me
wants to
though.
be removed from this project, I'd like direction to do so, and then I shall revise the,
Well, we're at 1.4 and we have 7. So if we show up with another 3.
Well, we're at 8.
We have 8. We have 400 on the CIP and a 50-50 match.
Okay, so numbers fast.
No,
So we're at
the-
1.4, but we have 7 on grant and we have 4 of our own, leaving us with 300,000 short, right?
No, we have a 50-50 match grant of up to $700,000.
Oh, gotcha.
So that's why I'm
I
seeking
thought the 7
additional,
was the.
that's why I'm
matches.
seeking additional funds to help increase our match.
We're quite a ways off.
$300,000
That's one
from
of
the
my
total.
questions is, I know we had this conception provided before.
Mhm.
And I think at that meeting, our reaction was that we don't have the money for this. So where are we? Because this is the same thing and we don't have the money for it still. So I guess that's where I'm a little
Maybe,
annoyed, might be a strong term,
maybe
but,
not.
well, but I guess what I'm saying is
I can answer that one.
if we're working to do this sooner rather than later, where are we gonna find economies? Because I don't know that,
So why this estimate is in front of you tonight is this is what was submitted with that grant application. So I'm giving you a scenario of, this was the grant application, this was the budget that I provided during that grant application, this is where we were at. I hope not to confuse our conversation with the items on here, but would like to focus on the total budget. And I can highlight the budget later too, to
Yeah.
talk about it. But,
When we sought for the grant, we went for what is the best project that we can perceive in our minds without going absolutely crazy. And we went through, we met, and things we'd like to see. When we had that meeting too, we also noticed of what things could we omit if we can't raise the funds for it. The first thing to admit would be the wheel, because the wheel's going to cost us between, $300,000 right there. You're almost to where you need to be just by omitting that one feature. So we're being optimistic and making sure we can maximize our grant dollars if we were able to secure additional funding for this project.
When does it have to be used by?
Yep, so there isn't a grant agreement that's signed by the DNR in the village tonight, but in that grant agreement, it's gonna say June of 2027, the DNR would like to have given all the money to the village of Osceola. So they'd like the project to be closed on June of 2027.
So we have a year to do design and
Two?
budgeting and, wait, yeah, I'm
To finish it.
sure you could say 2, but you have design, you've got fundraising, you've got some more tweaking after that. We only meet once a month. I mean, you're gonna burn through time in a hurry. So I'm throwing a year out saying we've got some time to think about it. So.
Yep.
Okay.
That is true, Mike. The time is out there. Another piece of information I can provide is you can write a letter to the DNR amending the agreement to allow the time to go on further. It's something you need to be timely with though.
Sure. Well, it
It's just something I've seen.
sounds like Devin's trying to fleece people for some more dollars, so.
Yeah,
Please.
doing the best we can.
We think it's that.
Gotta
Todd-
shake the tree, yeah.
I want to say Todd and I were talking, and we feel that Osceola really is missing a crown jewel park. And Cascade Falls would be the perfect opportunity to make a park, the park that everyone wants to come and see, as it is one of our biggest attractions for the community.
So is that where NPS comes into the equation then?
So yes, I have met with National Park Service, and I've met with the Horse Foundation too. The National Park Service is really excited about the future phases, phase
Right.
3,
Right.
especially where there's river access, because their priority is gaining access to the river. So well, I have looped them into this conversation where we're at, what we're awarded, but they kind of helped me find some additional fundings, but they're financing options. It's not going to really help us in the immediate need. But there would definitely be interested in finding ways to help us for phase 3 when it comes to getting access to the river.
Okay. And the DNR?
DNR, I'm still reaching out to them on that one. Well, the DNR gave us a huge grant, so.
This is the DNR's funding source for acquiring land and all park and recreational opportunities. It's this stewardship funding, that's this umbrella that has all these programs in it. And you can apply, get a piece of the pie.
If we are removing that wheel, does that impact our grant at all? Is that like frowned upon that we're straying heavily from this 1.4 million?
No, it is not. You're still building a staircase. We can change the shape, size, the layout. We just can't go building playground equipment or, something off topic. But this is something presented to the DNR as preliminary engineering. It's just like saying, it's like a gut check. Do you actually have an estimate and do you have something that you can prove to us you're going to build?
And this is removal of the stairs and construction, so an entire summer without the stairs and a rough timeline?
We could do the
No?
demo of the stairs after we're done with this.
Yeah, this could be,
As it's,
yeah.
there's a
Okay.
reason why we moved it, because of, we thought it'd be a better area to move it and it would not impact
The existing
the
structure.
existing
yeah.
structure as is. And once again, when I say the structure leaf has reached the end of its life, it doesn't mean that it's broken. It works perfectly fine. It's just time to replace the structure.
How close is this observation deck and stuff to the top of the falls? I know it's just a short distance down Gristmill there.
The slide above helps you. If you go to the one above it where it shows all 3 phases, you can kind of see a better depiction of where the wheel is in relation to you can see the white water.
Yeah.
It can be moved around, but right now it's approximately 100 feet away from the falls.
Because I know what's gonna happen. I don't know if anybody else can foresee that.
They won't be jumping from there.
They won't be jumping from there, but they'll be on top of it, and guess what the next medical's gonna be?
So do you think this will become the wheel of misfortune?
It's
I
not
don't
near the
think-
water though, right?
No, it's not
It's-
even anywhere close.
Yeah, it's just
No.
a viewpoint.
It's a viewpoint. Yeah.
In
you
terms
won't
of
be-
safety too, Drew, you've talked to Paul, right?
I have got Paul's approval on phase 1. And the only reservation I've heard from the fire department is about phase 3, and I can talk about that when I get there.
Yeah, phase 3 is a way out that requires purchasing land from an existing landowner in Osceola, so.
How many people are hanging off the overlook in the St. Croix? We gotta think about that too.
I don't want to stray too far
Yeah,
away with
I
this
don't- I
conversation.
don't-
That's pretty far
I
out.
heard an update, but I don't hear any action needed.
I don't
Yeah,
think that.
so it sounds like we
Good
just,
updates, continue the update with Drew.
yeah,
Yeah, I apologize. I'll continue. I was on phase 2. That's this red boundary. This will be the upper pedestrian bridge if we determine that it's at the end of its life. It'll be the lower pedestrian bridge it's kind of like reconstructing that lower bridge in kind with aluminum design to overlooks. And then we will install this aluminum or fiber material boardwalk all the way down to the Village Osceola property boundary, which is this dashed red line, and that will be the end of phase 2. Phase 3, our vision for it is starting with property acquisition of this private parcel. Then there'll be a asphalt parking area, which is going to be revised slightly, but this is most cost-effective turnaround parking area that I can provide. And then this is off Second Avenue here. And then there will be a 8-foot wide path with a pedestrian bridge that will connect to this boardwalk, and the boardwalk will continue to Eagle Bluff Trail. So I mentioned to y'all that the fire department have concerns about phase 3. Some of the concerns are being able to turn their emergency vehicles around in this parking lot. That's valid. And also turning around any kind of equipment on the boardwalk at the St. Croix River access. So we're going to work on a revision so that they can turn around a UTV or 4-wheeler or something. So just providing the information. I'll continue with just giving some next steps for this job is, MSA is going to continue with this design. Please email me or call me with any feedback that you have. We're going to integrate the feedback from the fire department. When I'm done with that, I'll seek Todd's approval and then prepare the final plan and the cost estimates. And we'll bring them to the next meeting. That's my goal. And then with this stewardship grant award, the next step would be to move forward with phase 1 design services. Once again, congrats to Osceola for that grant. I can see it myself. It was very competitive. So they love our project that we have. We were just talking about the National Park Service. They have some options. From what I can tell, there's nothing that is super great, but they could help with land acquisition, and we could bundle that with stewardship possibly. So if directed by the village board, they would like MSA to reach out and provide some kind of scenario. That's something MSA can do as part of this conceptual design. So that would just be a conversation and another update. This is what we could do. This is the timeline. But stewardship, they will pay for just the assessed land value of a piece of land. And then a lot of times we negotiate and then the cost goes up. So we'll need some other sort of funding source to help deal with the excess. So that's where my wheels are turning. Maybe.
Does MSA have any history working with bonding cash with the state?
Yeah, what is that called? State trust fund? No.
I'm not familiar with how the state of Wisconsin works, but in Minnesota, you'd go to the Capitol and ask for bonding money.
Yeah, I can follow up with you on that. I'm not a funding expert, but yes, our Bryce Lake office has done that. The last time I checked, it was a loan at the rate of inflation. And then that money that was being collected due to inflation would go back to the school district. I think I maybe talked to you about that before, and it's slipping my mind, Evan, but I could follow up with you on that. It's a low interest loan, and then the interest, it goes back into a school district. So.
Drew, does the intersection at the highway in phase 3, does that consider the change that's coming with the bridge and the bike lane and all?
So yeah, this project would come after their improvement. I have at least told the DOT that we're thinking about a trail that would go under the bridge. I haven't seen the DOT plan that would show our space down there. So that's something I could dig into, Arvid, but I've at least reached out and said, hey, there's a trail down here, an existing one. We're planning on a future one.
Yeah, I know the Minnesota side already has a walkway set aside on the Minnesota side of that bridge, but I don't know that there's anything in the design at the
Nothing
moment
currently on our
for
side.
the
for it.
Wisconsin side, no.
But no, there's a bike path underneath 243 on the Minnesota side.
Devin, is is TID 4 within a half mile of phase 1?
Yes.
And so is TID 3.
Oh, TID 4, that one's be really close. TID 3 for sure is.
I know TID 3 would be within a
Yeah.
half mile of
TID
phase
4 is
1.
really close.
I would want to know that. That would potentially be a funding source too, so.
I'm gonna chime into that for a second. I feel like you'd mentioned you're gonna go back and continue design,
Mhm.
yet we're still talking funding.
I agree.
I'm talking,
No,
continue on phase 2 and 3.
2 and
Yeah,
3
I know,
feature.
we're already having issues with one, and you're burning design fees at 10% on 2 and 3. I feel like you could sit back and wait and to see how much more money we can drum up before you even move on 1.
Okay.
That's my 2 cents,
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Mike, and
especially if we have 2 years worth of time. I say that cautiously, but I feel like we can take a breath and see if we can drum up some more money.
Yeah, thank you for that comment. That was next one I had was the amount of money spent on 3. What's phase 4?
that's, oh, you guys are talking about my contract.
Well, yeah.
I don't want you to go back and think that one of us said we want to change something and you do it and burn up hours and then come back when I'm out of money. When in reality, we don't even necessarily have all the money we thought we should
I'll
have.
let you finish are you done with your update?
So yeah,
Phase 3.
Mike, we're already hired to provide this conceptual design, and I'm gonna hold MSA to make sure it's exactly what the village wants. It's a treasure in my heart, so I'm gonna make sure it's exactly what every stakeholder wants too. So, we will continue. We're
I want
under
it to be in
contract.
budget.
I was, what?
I want it to be in budget.
Budget.
Unfortunately, we don't know what that budget is yet.
Exactly. That's where I was going. It's like we could take a deep breath and give it some funding time maybe.
Well, the budget I'm providing today is our funding budget. It's like basically our match. This is as far as we can go.
Yep.
I'm basing it off of what I can do today. And this conceptual design, I can't provide something that is exactly, very precise because I'm still out at a conceptual design level. I haven't gone and surveyed the site. I'm working off of, LiDAR data, working off of a budgetary request that some suppliers worked on for a day or something.
Yeah.
I'm doing the best I can with where I'm at on the conceptual design. We'll continue. I plan to wrap that process up in November unless there's something that comes up, and we will continue on it until we are all happy. That's when I will be satisfied with it. But anything else on conceptual design for Cascade Falls Park? Otherwise, I'll continue to the next update item. All right.
I'll just add one thing. I guess I am very cost conscious in this moment. And so I'd really love to hear concrete thoughts around timelines for raising the money to do more than the village is already committed to doing. Because it feels a little bit pie in the sky, and I know it's conceptual. But I just have this lingering anxiety that it's still unclear to me where we're anticipating that extra money's going to come from, and I'd really like to hear and be aware of those details.
Yeah,
that's it.
Very good.
Stating my anxiety for the record. That's it.
Maybe it would be appropriate for me to follow up at the next meeting about, a very detailed budget scenario or something like that. Something I don't have. I could give you my opinion, and
to
kind of ramble. But
and to say that we haven't even seen the grant agreement yet. We haven't signed it yet, so we're still in the very early process of the grant too.
I can promise you that, more information scenario. When I was working on the CIP, I envisioned using TID 3, I believe it would be, as a financial source.
That's why I asked.
That's
why I asked about TID 4.
It's right on the edge of TID 4, so I gotta check that out. Are we done with the update then for the stairs?
Yep. Ending Neil's point. So I just wanted to say that MSA is continuing to work on this comprehensive plan. Here's some dates below in my update saying that Brian, he's the lead planner. He'll be at the public hearing at the Plan Commission meeting. And then our goal is to bring that to village board meeting in November as well. So I will be here in November, hopefully.
And then we already paid for this phase 1, 2, and 3. We've already had that agreement done, so that's not getting added to anything. The contract for professional services, it's just funny seeing the phases 1 through 4 on there when it's all part of phase 1, right? That's all part of the same project.
That's correct, Evan. Just one moment before diving into that. I know we're really excited to talk about that, but I have to provide feedback on this AFG grant still in my update. So MSA was hired to seek an AFG grant from FEMA to provide some with the goal of getting a vehicle acquired for the Osceola Fire Department. There was 1,635 awards made. The FEMA gave out 324 million. That was their target. Unfortunately, the village did not receive their vehicle acquisition, and MSA is going to have some follow-up conversations with FEMA, see what our scoring criteria was, which they have not released to us, or they say that maybe they're not going to release to us at all, which is interesting, and then see what we could do better, see what we can improve. It was told to me that Joey and Paul would be interested in hearing that conversation or attending the meeting, and that's open to them. And then the next application, which I would recommend us going after again, is in 2024. I'm hearing information that it's at the end of October. It's going to open at the end of October or beginning of September. There isn't any public information saying that they're going to do this. This is a trend with this funding program, is they don't just give out information on their website, or even if you call them, you have to fish for information. So this is the best information I have for the board members, and I wanted to supply it. So that way, if there's some hurry in the next months, I can at least give you the best information I can. And MSA can reapply for this grant for $2,500, which is the same amount that we charged for the initial application. And that's the end of my update. Is there any questions about, the plan, AFG grant?
Devin, can you remind me our hopes for that AFG grant? Was it gonna, like, the hole that is left in our planning since we didn't get that grant? So I am struggling to recall.
It's for new fire trucks.
Okay.
It would have been a 90-10 split. So we had 10% set aside in the CIP in the hopes that that grant will come through.
And because they've done existing work on the first grant, there should be minimal fees in the second.
Yeah, I provided an estimate of my fees for the second. It was $2,500. I've had conversations with Devin and board members about it being less, but I can't do it for less than that.
Okay.
So.
Cross that bridge later.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. Yeah, there's lots of things that can be said about FEMA. So it's fantastic, but it's frustrating. All right. Anything else about my update? Appreciate you entertaining me this long. So the next thing that we can talk about is this design contract for Cascade Falls Phase 1. The reason why this is even in front of y'all tonight is I would like the opportunity to be able to go out and construct this in 2025. There's been conversations about the timeline, that timeline would be great. It would follow the CIP timeline. So this is why I'm starting the conversation today about this, is because if we want to construct this in 2025, I will need to survey this starting next week or the following week. I'll need to have people over there surveying it, collecting data, and starting this historical preservation survey start to get my permits in line. So that's why this is in front of you. Initially, I would like to talk about Devin's point about how my phased approach is confusing. And the reason I have this phased approach is because if we want to start on a certain phase today, or talk about a certain piece of my cost, we can negotiate that or talk about it piece by piece by 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is not related to phase 1, 2, and 3 of my conceptual design. This is only for design of phase 1. This phase is just different groups of services that MSA can provide the village to help assist the village throughout this project. So I'll briefly talk about this real quick. Phase 1 is design service and getting through permitting. So we'll do the design, the plans, the specs, some permits. In that initial phase, there is some sub-consultants that we will need to use, and to save cost, we have not included them as a sub-consultant. So you can read the notes there, but basically we'll go out for RFP to get the most competitive price on geotechnical service and historic preservation. This site review, and that's because that's a historic, Grits Mill Park is a historic site. There was that old mill there, so we have to have proof that we are not disturbing any artifacts. I wanted to just give that information. Phase 2 will be going out for bids. You can see my timeline. We do that next spring if we follow this timeline. And then phase 3 will be construction services. Something different about phase 3 is it's not lump sum, it's time and materials. And from my experience, I found that this is the most fair approach that I can take with these construction, observation, and inspection service jobs. And I believe it to be the most fair. That I believe the $70,000 is an accurate number of what the cost shall be. And if our time is less than that, we will only charge what is less. If our time is more because said contractor is taking longer, or there's some kind of problem out there where the project goes on for another year, MSA would still be compensated for our time. And I believe the village would still want MSA to help reconcile the problem. So that is why it's like that. It's something that I believe to be more fair. And if we're concerned about going over this amount for instance, with each of these T&M contracts, MSA would give a written notice to the village staff saying, hey, we're at this number. Would you like us to continue or stop? Or something else, conversation. So it's not like we would go forward without having a conversation. And then phase 4 will be grant administration. And I've talked to the grant writer, Kiana. She believes that she's not going to reach $8,000. So she'd be significantly less. That's our goal. So I want to talk about the cost. I believe that we have some feelings that the cost is a lot. That could be a valid thing. We're all dwelling on the cost, and rightfully so. Some of our estimates and budgets are not coming up to the project budget that I've been indicating. So that's a valid feeling. I'm acknowledging that. But my numbers are below industry standards, and I've tried to be as competitive as I can in my numbers. Is there any other question about this contract I could?
I have two. Can we begin incurring, I would imagine these costs are eligible for matching.
Yep. Engineers.
But we haven't signed an agreement. So can we begin incurring expenses for a grant that we have not entered into a formal agreement yet?
Yes, you can. So yes, the only thing you cannot do before you sign that piece of paper is break ground on site.
Yeah.
I wish all grants were this way, but
Yeah, we're allowed to spend money before.
Like conceptual design, that fee that you've already paid for, that is going to be matched at 10%.
I believe you. I just wanted to make sure that I understood it right.
And they just don't want to see us out there digging holes and working.
And then the second thing is the project schedule here would seem to suggest that we have no time to raise money. So which is it?
I'm gonna make a quick comment. I'm all for everything up to February 28th. And then to your point, we can stop, because if we see some budgeting along the way that just doesn't support the funding we have, we don't have to move forward past February 28th.
So, and yes, it feels like we're at a disconnect here, because on the one hand, we were talking, we've got time to raise money. On the other hand, we have until February.
We're not gonna get a good budget unless we do some surveying and do some design. Not to defend Drew's point, because I think he is a little aggressive on his time, but we're not gonna nail this down. It's just like the same issues that JNS ran into on the hill falling down. You really don't know the cost until you get into it. If we don't do some surveying and get some decent design down, it's gonna be guessing. So I'd be on board with moving forward. We can always stop
Mhm.
and don't send it out for bid and
Yeah.
wait.
Because if also fall into a windfall, we can say add X, Y, and Z,
Or we find out there's a major issue down there that is gonna add cost to the budget phase, then we just stop too. But we don't know, and that we've already determined through a lot of other issues that hillside is a problem.
No, my recommendation was to go forward with the professional services for this.
I'd be on board with that too, with a huge asterisk next to it that says we're not gonna build it till we know what it's gonna cost decent and.
But we're not approving the timeline tonight.
No, I agree,
That's-
yeah, yep.
Right, to be completed by
But
October.
we're approving the services to get going on the project.
Yeah, those costs aren't gonna change. Like everything that's happening up until the point where we go out to bids, those costs are gonna be incurred regardless of what the total cost of the project is, so. And correct me if I'm wrong, but we have some leeway with regard to how our CIP is currently structured. I mean.
Yeah, we
if-
could, for instance,
We can
if
shift stuff
we
to
have
make
400
another $100,000 appear.
and we have 400 set aside next year for this project.
Right.
We haven't adopted the 26 and 27 CIP yet either. We've only adopted it in conceptual idea, not in finality of it. So we can, if we could push this thing out to 26, you could possibly raise more money through the CIP for it if you wanted to. That is another avenue to go down that path.
Our choice.
There's also revenue available through the TID districts that we mentioned. So there's other avenues to increase the funding. But I think the most important side is to make sure that we start with incurring some of the engineering costs that are going to be really kind of dictate how we proceed with this project. Because we could all of a sudden realize that this ground is not suitable for the supports or something like that. And we got to change our mindset, what we're doing.
And the other thing to take into consideration too is that things aren't getting cheaper. So we wait 3 years to build it. Now we pay for 3 years from now, not in 25. So
Inflation's going way down.
exactly, yeah.
But that's a good point, Brad. I'd like to comment, just like that land acquisition on phase 3. That's why I'm open to starting to work on some scenario for the village, because cost of stuff is not going
It's
down.
not gonna go down.
It's not
Yeah.
going down. When we can look at opportunities, I can present stuff, talk about it.
Yeah, I'm fine with I mean, this is the whole point of what the CIP was designed for. Like, this is already built in. Like, we've already built in the professional services that are related to this particular project, so.
And half
we
that are
just-
covered through the grant.
Exactly. We have to proceed forward. And to Mike's point, we can choose to stop once we know what we're up against. And I mean, we have matching up to 1.4, so we already have enough to sustain a $800,000 project. The other 300 that we need to raise to get it to 1.4, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Maybe we're gonna find out that we can achieve what we need to do for 1.2. And we only have to come up with another $200,000. You know, that's where TID 3 and TID 4 might come in handy. Or we shift some things for our CIP and we do the completion of substantial work in 26 or 27. So there's all kinds of options. We can customize this any way we want, but my only opinion on this entire project is that I do not want to do this half-assed. If we're gonna set up some steps, do them the way that they should be done.
Yeah.
And if we have to finance some of it, even if it's through debt, $200,000 in debt. I mean, we just knocked a building down for $280,000. And yes, we own the land that it sits on.
Well,
and
and
it's
keep in
now
mind too,
village,
your
but-
TID can make your payments. on your-
Exactly, the TID can pay for that too, but I'm just saying, like, we were okay with acquiring a property and then a 20-year debt plan to knock a building down. And that adds no value to the village. Like, why would we not consider debt for potentially something that would make a beautiful park? You know, so that's a long-term conversation, but just in terms of what we do tonight, I think we approve this to get it moving, and then, like Mike said, we can wait once we know what things are gonna be.
So you're looking for a motion to approve a $206,000 expenditure towards design on the stairway.
And it's matched at 50/50, so,
Yeah, that's already baked in the grant cost.
yeah, it's baked into the grant, so.
And I just want to be clear. I want to see the stairs be built. I'm not trying to be a pain in the neck for no reason. I just want to make sure I understand.
Oh, yeah, no, I get it.
Because it's a big project and I am endeavoring to understand exactly how we're trying to approach it. And I appreciate everybody's explanations.
Yeah, it has actually been really helpful.
I'd make a motion, we approve this professional service agreement.
I will second that.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Arvid. We have a motion to approve the executive services agreement. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Drew. All right, sorry, I gotta go back to, so are we, is closed session the next thing on here then?
No, there's one quick item before that.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
There are 2 items before that.
The lot survey?
Yep. Paul, our attorney, Paul Muller, wants the village to approve the certified survey map to completion, the sale of the land to the Friedels
Oh,
regarding.
is this the retaining wall?
Regarding
Yeah,
retaining
okay.
wall. Just to acknowledge it so you can finish the paperwork and we can get it be done with.
Okay, so moved. Is there a second?
Yep.
Thanks, Mike. Motion by myself, second by Mike to approve the lot survey. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Carries. New process for administrator review. I'm assuming this is discussion only.
Yep, unless Neil, you're looking for action tonight.
This is discussion, and because when we went through the form at the budget workshop, Ron raised some questions that he wanted to discuss, and so we put it on the agenda to talk about how we want to do it. I think, Ron, if I'm summarizing properly, when I reviewed the process is how we had kind of envisioned it going at the meeting before the last meeting. Devin would be in the room during that conversation, and we would be having a discussion back and forth on performance and determining the ratings that we would like to see. I think that that's the primary decision point that we need to make, is whether or not we want to have that be the process we do, or we have the process be where it is just the board. We identify we have a conversation, identify ratings in Devin's absence, and then I would imagine bring Devin in afterwards to report out what we've decided. I can acknowledge and see merits to Ron's view as I've thought about it, and so I'm not wedded to the previous process. I think that there could be value in Ron's approach, but we can discuss.
This is a trial year where we're gonna do it and then see how it goes and then do feedback.
Refine, yeah.
So anyway, Ron, sorry, not to completely summarize what I understood you to be saying.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. The whole purpose is, I've done research on this. I've gone to a lot of stuff throughout the years too, as far as stuff goes. And another popular method too is like a 360 review.
Mhm.
So you heard that? Where we give a review to like department heads or people who work closest with them, and they give their impact. Because, we don't work with them every day. We don't work with whoever the administrator is every day, right? We don't see that. It's just another tool to help us assess the administrator's position and job. And I mean, it could be,
Oh, your mic's off, Ron.
oh, sorry. Just like a 360 review might be good too, to take that feedback, discuss it in closed session, and then give an honest assessment to the, Devin or whoever the administrator is at that point, talking about the pros and the cons, but summing it up in a succinct professional way to when we meet with the administrator, it's there. It's not everything aired out, right? That's how I envisioned it. I didn't want it to be all positive, all negative, all a certain tone. I wanted to be able to hash it out behind the scenes, come to a consensus. If there's things that are doing good, we can articulate what that is and spell that out. If there's things that need improvement, we can also agree on that without everybody saying, and this, and this, and this, and this. There's nothing worse for any employee, not just an administrator, but for everybody to give their feedback independently and not a consensus. So my suggestion would be, issue this to department heads, like a 360 review of people that work with them. Not every employee in the village, of course. Take that information, have a closed session meeting about it, and either after the meeting or at the next meeting, we can put some things together and, give the administrator, not just Devin, but whoever's in that position, the feedback.
I like the form. I don't like the fact that we're still hashing out the process behind it. I'd like to see that written down. I like what you're saying. I like what you're saying. I'm not gonna make any action. If we move to try to adopt something tonight, I gotta say no because it's still too vague for me. I'd like to see the directions to go with the form.
Well, and those, so just to recap, the initial discussion was about launching a review process for next year, which included written instructions and a performance evaluation timeline and all the stuff we're talking about. We then decided at the meeting before the last meeting that we wanted to conduct a review this year. And so this is kind of the bastardized version of what the full year process had intended to look like. And so I feel like we're kind of squirreling. I'm not sure which direction the board would like to take this. I think maybe we've started talking about something that's bigger than being addressed in the next couple of months in time to do a review of Devon for this year. But I think that the intention originally was to put in place a process for a review that would start for the next 12 months rather than initiating a backward-looking review from where we sit right now. Does that make sense?
When do union contracts come up for the police?
Come up what?
When do your contract changes for the union?
Yeah, it depends if it's a 1 year deal or
we're-
2 year deal.
The contract runs through next year, so next fall we'll be working on a new.
It's a fall date though?
Well, generally we work on the negotiations during the fall because they take effect January 1.
January, okay, that was the question I asked. It's January 1. Okay. I was trying to coincide them all together. That's where I was going with that.
I don't think you could do that.
It does, yeah. If it was like, our union is May.
Yeah.
We have time, if the contract change was May, we could talk about your stuff and still have you follow the same May cycle. That's what was going on in my head.
His would be independent of.
I get it,
everybody,
but
so
there's, everybody gets their head in a mode of, I gotta do reviews now.
that could be assigned to the department heads. They can put their head in it when, they're gonna need to gather. This is wonderful because you can gather that information as to, negotiations of pay.
And a review can be done at any point as long as
Right.
you have a work history.
Well, especially
Right,
if
yeah.
if this is only a sample this year, who cares if it's January, February, March?
Yeah, it's just a
Right.
work history. So it's not even the administrative position. Say you have an employee who, you realize there might be some deficiencies.
Yeah.
You have an evaluation, you maybe do a performance improvement plan, spell it out, ask them what things they think they need to improve on.
Yep.
What they can do, what the timeline is, things like that. And then now everybody's aware of what needs to be done, so they move forward from there. So it can be done at any point.
Yeah, reviews are your record of your performance that provides you a backbone or some kind of structure if you're to let an employee go or justification for letting an employee go.
There you go.
Without a review, if you let an employee go, they're entitled to a lot more than they would be if you have.
Or it justifies pay increases for jobs well done.
Right.
But as long as you have a work history, it can be done anytime. But it's just good to do at least annually to get into the habit of it, so it's not just coming up when there's an issue,
To the
Well, with
specific
that-
points of why this is on the agenda tonight, I agree with you. And I feel like maybe that's something that we could agree upon for this.
That
We are going into a closed session as a
Just
group
the board.
without the administrator
I'm totally fine.
to be able to provide a succinct review that is not person by person and repetitive. And I agree. I think that could,
I'm totally fine with that approach, and I think maybe the distinction here is, do we want to do a review
this year.
this year? And if so, are we comfortable doing it alone as a board and using the document that is before us? Or do we want to take a different approach?
Well,
I think-
we can't go any further until what you brought up, because that's a really good point, is we need that instruction to go with it. So he needs more clarity as to when we're.
The only thing I heard agreed upon was between you two saying, we're gonna meet as in a closed session and score the guy and send it back to him. I don't know if I like that.
Yeah.
What would you like to
That's
see?
exactly what a manager does to an employee, but yeah, we're asking for more detail. Like, I'm
Trying to do a
suggesting a
better job.
360, I'm suggesting a 360 review with the people who work with the department heads, getting their feedback, so we actually have information to base on, right? We don't work with
To help
anybody.
To help score this.
To
thing,
help,
maybe.
to help score this. Yeah, we get their input. And then we can help score it, because none of us work with the administrator or any other employee daily. We don't know. but the department says I'll work with them on a regular basis. So their input is just one more tool for us to make a decision.
So this piece of paper is gonna become policy. So with policy, we have to have those footnotes as to how we're gonna apply it. We don't have that yet.
I'm not even sure I really want it to be policy. Like, this doesn't need to be
Well,
codified. I think it's a
Well,
process that
if it's-
can be
okay.
undertaken.
if it's gonna be
And it doesn't need
recognized,
to be prescribed in any way. That's
Okay.
for us to do.
but
To help argue Van's point for a second, say I'm a new board member and I've never done this before and I don't know what the scenario is, I wouldn't mind having something to read to understand what I'm supposed to do and how I'm supposed to gauge it. I only know what I know from him as a private citizen prior to that, and the little bit that I might have ran into through some other interest in town. So I don't know that it would be completely fair. And honestly, I still don't know some of the staff enough to understand the dynamic between them and him,
Mhm.
or them and the town, to know, do I take Joey's context, or does Joey have a vendetta against somebody? You know, maybe I need to think about that before I.
I think you probably easily, I mean, doing enough of these over the years, you see a theme.
You do,
Right? You'll see one that's blistering and the rest are all decent to good.
yeah.
I think you can glean
I'm
something.
I'm not just saying it's me, but maybe somebody else down the road comes on board that doesn't have management
so is this gonna,
experience to be able to do that.
okay,
I'm done.
I'm sorry. So is, what my concern is, okay, when we start adding these things in, which is good, this is fine. This tells the employee where they're at, this, the employer where they're at. Is this become official record for their personnel
Sure it
file?
would.
Well, I
Absolutely.
mean, in a way, it depends on how the village president wants to do it, but traditionally,
Right?
all this stuff is just gathering tools. At the very end, we as a board would come together and do a final report.
Yep.
Okay.
All these notes can be thrown away. They're not all part of it.
No.
It's just, it's official report based upon our review, and you'll have one review,
Yep.
and that'll become part of the file,
Yep.
not what the employees said,
Right.
not what our individual rankings were.
Precisely.
Okay, this is only a tool, okay?
Yeah.
As to the final outcome.
Correct.
So the final outcome, is that gonna be policy that we're gonna have to have?
I don't think it would fall under any other
Well,
generally accepted HR principle. If you're
That's
giving
what I
an
was gonna
employee a
ask.
review, the review goes to their file.
Okay,
That's what happened with Ben Kremenauer. When we did Ben's reviews, those went to his file.
so this is a non-spoken policy that we have. We do the employee evaluation, employee review.
It would be considered an employment action, and
Yeah,
those are
we-
covered by
Okay,
law. So,
okay.
In the initial document that was provided when we first had this discussion, there was an effort very consciously made to memorialize what the process is going to be
There
so
you
that
go.
it can live beyond any one of us.
right.
And so that people know what they're supposed to do and all like that. I'm not sure how we'd like to proceed. I mean, I think that there, in my view, appears to be energy to conduct a review. I think it would be healthy to conduct a review.
For 2024.
Yeah. But I don't know that we're clearly in alignment around what that review should look like and how we want to do it. So I guess I'm open to ideas. I think one option is to put the 360 review idea in the back pocket as we think about next year's review, and to spend time being thoughtful and developing how we want that to look. And we conduct a board review on the basis of the stuff in here. That would be, in my mind, option one. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what option two would be. If you wanted, we could go back and
I don't
try
know.
and come up with a 360 review in that amount of time.
I don't know that there's anything stopping for me, I'm just using me as an example, from going up to any one of the other staff and going, tell me your 2 cents. You know, if you had to comment about Devin and his performance, you know, it doesn't have to be formal. It just be me asking a question. So.
I mean,
As this is an experiment of trying to figure out a system, maybe it is more loose for a closed session review at the next meeting where we're just discussing
Good idea.
the first one.
so you're,
My suggestion would be for November's meeting, we have a closed session review and aim to figure out how to do a 360 review for 2025.
That part cannot be in the closed session. The only part that can be in the closed session would be the performance review. Any procedures about it would have to happen in open session.
Yeah. Right. I'm suggesting that we would work towards figuring out
Her
a
statement
360.
was an and, not
Yeah.
a together.
Right, right,
And
right.
would people like to use the form that is in this book
Yes,
for that
As a tool.
as a tool?
Yes.
And we're all gonna come to the meeting, we're gonna have completed it in advance, and then we're gonna have that conversation.
or
If
we
you
will,
want to talk to staff before November's meeting,
Godspeed.
That I think
Go
is a
for it.
great idea.
That might be another way to do it too. It's a 360 review. You know, talk to different people. Even talk to Devin individually if you want. Ask him how he's doing. Get his input. You know, take all that
Right.
into account. You know.
Okay, so to restate, we're gonna go into closed session to do a review with just the board, and we're gonna use the document that was included in the book
correct.
Next month.
next month at the November meeting. Yes,
Yes.
is that good enough? Okay, thank you all.
right, any more discussion on that topic? Now we can talk about a motion to go into closed session for another unrelated item for Second Avenue parking lot.
I make a motion to go into closed session.
Thank you, Marcia.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Ron. I have a motion by Marcia and a second by Ron to enter closed session for the purposes of discussing competitive or bargaining reasons related to the Second Avenue parking lot. I'm going to do a roll call vote on this one, so we'll start with Neil.
Aye.
Mike, Van,
Aye.
myself is an aye. Ron?
Aye.
David, Marcia?
Aye.
The ayes have it, 7-0. We'll move to closed session.
Do we report something now?
Nothing.
Okay. We are back in open session. I think that was the last item on our agenda, correct? Okay, future items, is there any action that is happening after coming out of close?
No.
No? Okay, future, agenda items and updates, Marcia,
None.
Arvid? Nothing? Nothing for me, Van?
Just something for me, I'm interested in seeing, to get the ball rolling on this. I don't believe we have it in our ordinance. Is reference to village property, that if we're going to be selling it, giving it away, whatever we're gonna be doing, that the adjacent properties would have first right of refusal whenever this public property may go up for sale. And I would like that addressed somewhere in the future as far as how do we go about planning commission looks at that, or how do we look at that? It's something that,
You and me can talk later about this whole thing,
okay,
figure out what the next step will be.
all right. Cause I mean, we don't have it. I mean, I was looking at too, was that property, those properties that we were dealing with, that not easement, but it
Yeah.
was, yeah, alleyway.
We'll talk about it, you and me together,
Okay.
just could open a whole different can of worms. That's-
Get some guidance. That's all we're looking for, is some
Okay.
guidance on that. Future. That's it for me.
Mike? Neil? Okay. And we will adjourn at 8:15. Thank you.
I want to talk about that.
Was weekly?
Are they weekly?
No, they're not.
I think it's like just a day, so.
Just a few.
I didn't hear you. We'll talk here. Hold on.
One more